I had to be insane to take this job. But then again, sanity never paid my bills. I stood at the entrance of my makeshift workshop aboard the starship Ganymede, surrounded by a mess of tools, half-finished projects, and the distinct smell of burnt circuitry. The universe was a vast and chaotic place, but someone had to fix the damn things that broke down in it. And that someone was me, Jack, the wrench Mackenzie. It was a typical Tuesday morning when the distress signal came in. Typical meaning I was up to my elbows in a disassembled flux capacitor, cursing the day I decided to become a galactic mechanic. The ship's comm system crackled to life, and a voice, laced with desperation, echoed through the workshop. Mayday! Mayday! This is the starship Orion's Pride. We are stranded in the Zeta Quadrant and need immediate assistance. Is anyone out there? Please, we need help. I wiped the sweat off my brow, smearing grease across my forehead, and punched the comm button. Orion's Pride, this is Jack Mackenzie aboard the Ganymede. What's the problem? The voice on the other end, a woman named Captain Alara, explained their situation. Their warp drive was fried, life support systems were failing, and to top it all off, they were drifting dangerously close to a gravity well that would suck them into oblivion in a matter of hours. Perfect, I muttered to myself. Just another day in paradise. With no time to waste, I fired up the Ganymede's engines and set a course for the Zeta Quadrant. As I navigated through the asteroid field that separated us, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of excitement and dread. This was the kind of job that could either make or break a reputation. And considering my reputation was already held together with duct tape and prayer, I didn't have much left to lose. The Orion's Pride looked worse than I imagined. The once sleek and formidable starship was now a floating wreck, with sparks flying from exposed wires and hull breaches patched together with what appeared to be desperation and spit. I docked the Ganymede and made my way to the airlock, toolbox in hand. Captain Alara greeted me, her expression a mix of relief and skepticism. "You're Jack Mackenzie?" she asked, eyeing me up and down. "The famous galactic mechanic?" I gave her my best charming smile, which probably looked more like a grimace given the situation. In the flesh. Now, let's see what we're dealing with. The inside of the Orion's Pride was no better than the outside. The crew, a motley bunch of aliens and humans, were doing their best to keep things from falling apart, but it was clear they were in over their heads. Alara led me to the engine room, where the warp drive lay in pieces, the smell of burnt circuits almost overpowering. "Can you fix it?" she asked, her voice tinged with hope. I knelt down examining the damage. It was bad, but not impossible. "I can fix anything, Captain. The real question is, can you keep your crew alive long enough for me to do it?" She nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. "Just tell us what you need." As I started rattling off a list of parts and tools, I couldn't help but notice a strange, almost imperceptible hum in the background. It wasn't coming from the warp drive or any other system on the ship. It felt different. But there was no time to investigate. I had a warp drive to fix, and a crew's lives depended on it. 3 hours into the repairs, things were finally starting to look up. I'd managed to bypass the worst of the damage and was making good progress on the warp drive. The crew was running around, following my instructions and keeping the ship in one piece. Then, just as I was about to reconnect the main power conduit, the hum I'd noticed earlier grew louder, transforming into a low, ominous drone. I glanced around, trying to pinpoint the source. "Captain Alara," I called out, my voice echoing through the engine room. "Do you hear that?" She frowned, listening intently. "Yes, I hear it. What is that?" Before I could answer, a sudden explosion rocked the ship. The force threw me against the bulkhead, and I felt a sharp pain in my side. As the smoke cleared, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the room, holding a smoking blaster. "Sorry, Jack," the figure said, a smirk playing on their lips. "But we can't let you fix that warp drive." It was one of the crew members, a wiry man named Rylan. He'd been helping me just moments ago, but now his eyes were cold and calculating. "Rylan, what the hell are you doing?" Alara shouted, drawing her own weapon. He shook his head. "You don't get it, do you? This ship isn't just broken. It's a target, and I've got my orders." As Rylan aimed his blaster at the warp drive, I realized the gravity of the situation. If he destroyed it, there'd be no way to escape the gravity well. We'd all be doomed. Without thinking, I grabbed a nearby wrench and hurled it at him. It hit his hand, knocking the blaster to the floor. Alara lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. "Finish the repairs, Jack!" she yelled, struggling to keep Rylan pinned. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to focus. With Rylan subdued, I went back to work, reconnecting the power conduit and reactivating the warp drive. The ship hummed to life, and for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. With the warp drive back online, the Orion's pride had a fighting chance. But we weren't out of the woods yet. The gravity well was still pulling us in, and we needed to act fast. "Alara, we need to fire up the engines now!" I shouted, rushing to the control panel. She nodded, dragging the still struggling Rylan to a nearby storage closet and locking him inside. "I'm on it!" The ship's engines roared to life, but the strain was immense. The entire vessel shuddered as we fought against the gravitational pull. I could see the stress fractures forming on the viewports, the metal groaning under the pressure. "Come on, baby," I muttered, my fingers flying over the controls. Just a little more. The stars outside the viewport began to shift as the ship slowly pulled away from the gravity well. It was like trying to swim through molasses, but inch by inch, we were making progress. Then, just as I thought we might actually make it, the ship's main computer blared a warning. Structural integrity failing, hull breach imminent. "Damn it!" I cursed, slamming my fist on the console. "We need more power!" Ilara's voice crackled over the comm. "Jack, the auxiliary power is drained. We can't give you any more." I looked around the engine room, my mind racing. There had to be something, some way to boost the power just enough to break free. And then I saw it. The experimental fusion core I'd been working on before the distress call came in. It was risky, untested, and could potentially blow us all to smithereens. But it was our only shot. "Captain, I'm going to divert power from the fusion core. It might be enough to push us clear." She hesitated for a moment, then replied, "Do it. And Jack, good luck." With shaking hands, I rerouted the power lines, connecting the fusion core to the main engines. The ship's lights flickered, and I could feel the raw energy surging through the hull. Come on!" I whispered, praying to whatever cosmic entity might be listening. The engines roared louder, and I could see the stars shifting faster outside the viewport. We were almost there, just a little more. And then, with a final shudder, the Orion's pride broke free from the gravity well. The ship lurched forward, propelled by the sudden release of energy, and we were clear. I slumped against the console, exhausted but triumphant. We had made it. The next few hours were a blur of repairs, medical checkups, and dealing with the aftermath of Rylan's sabotage. The crew was shaken but alive, and the ship, though battered, was holding together. Captain Alara found me in the engine room where I was finishing up some final adjustments. She looked tired but relieved. "Jack, I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice sincere. "You saved all our lives." I gave her a tired smile. "Just another day at the office, Captain, but I have to ask, what was Rylan talking about? Why would someone want to sabotage your ship?" Her expression darkened. "It's a long story, but suffice to say, we've made some enemies. Powerful ones. Rylan was a plant, sent to ensure we didn't make it back from this mission." I nodded, digesting the information. Well, let's hope they don't have any more surprises in store for us. As I packed up my tools, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. Sure, it had been a close call, and my body ached from the ordeal. But there was something about facing the impossible and coming out on top that made it all worth it. "Jack," Alara said, stopping me before I left, "if you ever need anything, you've got a place on this ship. We could use someone with your skills." I chuckled. "I'll keep that in mind, Captain, but for now, I think I'll stick to fixing things that aren't trying to kill me." As I boarded the Ganymede and set a course for home, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement. The universe was vast and full of challenges, but with a little wit, a lot of sarcasm, and a trusty wrench, there was nothing I couldn't handle. And who knows, maybe next time I'd get a job that didn't involve saving the galaxy, but then again, where's the fun in that?